everyone, and welcome to our Sunday service. From the Home Center Ministerial Team, provided by our Minister of Prayer, Reverend H.O.M.E, we have an opening prayer. Acknowledging the presence of God all about us this morning, we give thanks for our ability to experience the unconditional love of God for His creation. Shall we not then be a blessings to others as we travel through this life's journey? With love in our thoughts and compassion in every movement, seek ways in which to love those around you who struggle through their days. Are they neighbors, relatives, strangers, or friends? Where we see a need, where we are called to love, rather than walk away, stop a while and give a hand. Listen, smile, offer some compassion, a whole lot of love, or perhaps even a silent prayer. God would do as much for you. Would you not do as much for one in need? In love and light, amen.
With that. All right, so what I'm going to talk about this week is a new thread. In the end, it'll make sense. So this week, in our good old US of A, it's been quite a week, as we all know. And there's so many ways of seeing and understanding the events that have happened at the Capitol. And I'm not going to get into the politics, into the who's right, who's wrong. We don't have any idea about any of that. And you know, maybe there may be some people that wished I wouldn't talk about it, but I feel responsible to talk about it. I feel like if I don't, it's irresponsible, because this is what we're facing. Home Center stands for helping ourselves master every day. And right now, this is our everyday of what we're facing. So I will do my best to help give us guidance through what we're experiencing. Because there's so much fear and hate, it's very important that we keep sending light and love into every aspect of this situation. We must be light workers, and we must be the light workers we came here to be. And that is to be the ambassadors of universal love that you said yes to when the call came from the universe, and they're calling out who's going to be willing to come down to earth, whose souls are strong enough, light enough, advanced enough to come to earth at this time, because we know that this evolutionary process, this destruction of what is going to be at this particular time and what's new going to come through, needs old, strong souls. And because each one of you are listening to this today, each one of you are here, you are one of those that is the old soul that has been called to stand in light and to stand in love. And I can guarantee you that none of us really know the human story behind the story. We might think we know. There's conspiracies within conspiracies within conspiracies. And no matter what site you go to, no matter what news broadcast you hear, no matter what piece of information comes to you, we as the humans don't get to know, at our level, we don't get to know what the real story is. That's my personal belief. We can surmise, we can put pieces together, we can guess, but truly, we don't know God's story. We don't even get to know the human story, so to speak, but we also don't get to know the God truth. But we have to have faith that there is a God truth to what we're experiencing. It's very important that we don't participate in the hate. We don't participate in the division. That's not our job as a light worker, to participate into it, to feed into it. I encourage you to look at that spiritual story. There's the human truth, and then there's the God truth. And if we can keep ourselves elevated to being in alignment to that God truth, even though we don't know what it is, that's called faith. Even though we don't know, there is a God truth to that. And so I'm encouraging us, and I'm doing this for myself. It's not always easy. to keep my mind and my heart open to Spirit's truth. And, I truly don't know what it is, but I have to have faith that it is there, there is a truth to that. And hold that light in my heart. And I've said this before, and I feel like it's worthy of saying again, that we are here right now at this time for a very specific reason. And I think that hour has come. And it's our hour to shine our light. Each one of you hearing this, of course, has been called. And you said yes, and you're here, so it's time to step up. Even in the face of violence and chaos, God will never miss an opportunity for the good. And whether that good is or that chaos and violence is in your personal life, or whether it's in political life, or whether it's in our world life, in our country, another country, it doesn't matter. God never misses an opportunity to bring good. Even if it's a wild card. Sometimes things happen that's a wild card, and we didn't expect it. It wasn't part of our plan, but it's due to the actions of someone else. And we happen to be the bearer of that experience. God will still never miss an opportunity to do good and bring good through that experience. So now is the time to really hold on to that to know that God is doing good. So what we must do right now is keep our prayers for peace and integrity. Keep those coming. Keep those going. And you are the broadcaster of light. So it must start within us. Each one of us. The light has to start within us. The peace has to start within us. The integrity has to start within us. Just like a radio broadcast station. We can have a radio broadcasting place down the road. When I used to live out in Dallas, there was one right there on the Dallas-Salem Highway. I drive by it every day, and I'd see the big antenna out there. So it was a really stark reminder that there's a human being inside that radio station. And what they're saying, sitting at their desk with a microphone, is what's going out into the world. And I'm seeing us as light workers as a reminder that we are like a radio broadcasting station. The person inside is sending this message out, and the radio announcer is inside speaking. Well, that's our heart and that's our mind. We are the broadcaster in our radio station. If the radio announcer is speaking hate and blame inside the radio station, that's what's going out on the radio waves. It's not a private conversation. It's being broadcast. Everyone that is tuned into that station that has their dial set, or now it's a button, whatever it is. My day it was a dial. Had to fine tune it, get on the right frequency. And everybody that's in that frequency is picking up that broadcast. And they're picking up that signal, and they're having that experience of those words and that vibrational frequency. We can use that as a complete metaphor across the experience. It's a frequency. We're dialed into it, we pick it up, we hear it. We can't unhear it after we hear it. We must broadcast what we want to see in the world. That's the signal, the frequency that we want to have in our mind and in our hearts. We want to have compassion. We want to have integrity. We want to have that which we want to see out in the world. Truth, honesty, all of those things. They have to start within. So it's time for us to all live by those principles in every aspect of our lives. In New Thought, we learn and we teach that our thoughts become reality. It's just a catchphrase that we throw around. Well, we believe it, we know it, and we can, remind other people, but we need to remind ourselves right now that our thoughts are becoming reality, and we're contributing to the collective. We want to make sure that contribution is the contribution we want to see. So see our entire planet blanketed in the white Christ light. As light workers, we must walk our talk. Now's the time that we must walk our talk. And it's imperative that we put everything we've learned so far into action, and that we live by those principles. And use those positive affirmations. We all know about positive affirmations. Now's the time to use them and live them. Get grounded in love. Have integrity in everything you do and say. You can't just pray for one side of the national divide or work on positive affirmations for one particular party or one particular agenda. It must be the wholeness of our nation. Both sides, the entire wholeness of our nation needs to be prayed for, needs to have that same frequency sent out. You know, we teach and preach in New Thought the consciousness of victimization and blame, and how destructive it is to our spiritual landscape within. We've worked so hard to rise above being victim, and we are so easy to point out to other people, oh, that's victim. Oh, that's victim consciousness. Oh, listen to yourself, that's victim consciousness. Well, we can't afford that right now. We can't afford it in any stretch of the imagination. We've worked too hard to rise above it. And yet it's so easy to fall back into it and to go back into blame and start pointing a finger at the other, whatever the other is. It's even beyond color. It's just the other. Sometimes color is just the most visible, but now other is not that. It's just another mindset or another belief system or another whatever, the other. So it's time to go past that and the wholeness on all levels, and rise above the victim and rise above the plane. So there's a little poem in here in this book. I picked this up when I was thinking about this message today, and it's called Change Me Prayers. It's a lovely little book. It has all kinds of prayers in it, and this one is just at the very, very beginning. And it says, change me, divine beloved, into one who wants what you want for me. And we can change that, we could change the wording to that too, what you want for our nation. Let me trust that my needs will always be met for the highest way when I allow you to guide me. Well, that's a principle we can use right now for our nation. When we allow you to guide our nation, and it guides from within our own heart. Well, I want to share with you a story. This is an old story that Michael Meade tells. I think I've told it before a long time ago. And I think it's very appropriate here. In fact, he used the same story in his recent podcast. And that's what reminded me of it. I was listening to his podcast and he referenced the story. He didn't tell the whole story. And I thought, oh, that's that wonderful story that I want to share on Sunday. So it goes like this. There's an old woman who lived in a shoe. Okay, not that one. There is an old wise woman who is cooking in a big pot over a fire. And this soup is the creation of the world. And it takes a long time to cook. Well, both the soup and the fire need tending periodically. They need to be stirred. They need to be fed. They need, certain seasonings need to go into the soup as it's blending and coming into what can be put out into the world. Well, while the soup of creation is cooking, she's knitting the most beautiful garment. It is the finest thread. And the garment is the most beautiful garment that she has ever made. And while she's knitting, there is this very nice black dog sitting at her feet. It's very picturesque. And he's resting, sleeping. Well, ever so often she has to put down her knitting and go into the back, stir the pot, tend the fire, and then when she comes back, she picks up her knitting and continues with her beautiful fine thread, creating this most beautiful garment that she's ever made. Well, the garment is almost done, and the fire needs tending and the soup needs stirring, so she puts it down and she goes in the back and does what she's been doing all along with the soup and the fire. And she comes back out, and in the meantime, the dog got curious about the garment, pulled on a thread, and pulled and pulled and pulled until the entire garment was unraveled. And all there was a pile of thread in a big mess. Well, you can imagine that she was very disappointed, probably quite upset to have this beautiful creation unraveled. And she stood there a while in disbelief. And then finally she realized there was nothing left to do but to pick up the thread and start knitting again, with the imagination and the dream to create an even more beautiful garment. She saw this as an opportunity to do something even better than what she did before. And this is a reminder that there never is an end. An end is, what appears to be an end is only a beginning. It's the end of a cycle perhaps, but it's the beginning of a new opportunity, the beginning of a new cycle of creation. So it's time for each one of us to pick up our end of the thread and to start weaving a creation, a new creation, one that was better than it was before. And that's what we're here for. That's why we were born at this time. This is why we are in this world at this time when this is happening. To remember who you are as a light worker, to remember that you are the bearer of light, and to stay in your heart. Shine your light of love. Pick up your end of the thread, which is known as your genius. Too often people say, I don't know what my end of the thread is. Well, the end of your thread is in one term called your genius. Well, what is your genius, you know? It's like, whoa, what is that? Well, your genius is your innate talent. What is your innate talent? Because you might say, well, I'm not a genius. I'm not that. Well, you are, because there's something that everybody is born with. And it's a talent that you came with to express, to use. And it's time to express and use that genius, to use that talent now, because it's a piece of the puzzle of creation. That's your thread. That's your thread that you're going to weave through the creation. And without your thread, the tapestry isn't complete. So it's very important for you to be expressing your talents at this time. And that isn't the talent that we might think of. It's so subtle. It's the things that are easy. What's the most easy thing that you do that you take for granted when people say, oh my God, that is so amazing, and you go, it's nothing. That's your talent. That's what you're good at. That's what you were born with, to do, to use, to express, to create this new world. So don't discount that. Use it. Pick up that thread and start weaving it. You have a part to play in the changing world. And so don't pass up this opportunity. Don't let down your co-light bearers by not expressing your talent and putting your thread into this new tapestry. And just for an example of what this might be, to try to bring it home and bring it real, your talent may be woodworking. Maybe as simple as woodworking. You might say, well, how can that contribute to changing the world? It does and it can. It can and it does. Put it that way. So you were born with this talent, this skill that's being expressed as woodworking, putting things together, cutting a board, making something beautiful. Well, while you're doing that, while you're in that state of working with wood, you're enjoying yourself. You're in the flow of creation. You're in the flow of the universe. You're elevated during that period of time. And while you're in that state, while you're working with wood, that's your broadcast. That's what you're broadcasting out. That's your radio station. You're the speaker in your vibrational frequencies, and you're broadcasting that flow of creation. You're broadcasting that universal connection. And you're actually channeling it. You might not think of yourself as a channel, but when you're in your talent and that flow of the universe is happening, you are broadcasting that and you are channeling it. That's another word for broadcasting, is channeling. So you're channeling universal energy, universal flow, and it's affecting other people that you don't even know about. And you're saying, well, it's nothing, I was just enjoying myself. Well, it's something because you were enjoying yourself. So don't discount that, don't minimize that. You're doing great things while you're in your imagination. Imagination is what we have to create our tapestry of what our world is going to become. It requires imagination. Imagination is part of our myth. So imagine, you're in your imagination of creation, and it's powerful. So within your imagination comes that energy of creation, and wood is just the medium. You're doing a much larger work. So your talent, your genius might be gardening, it might be studying history, or it might be learning about computers or sewing. It doesn't matter. It is that spark of creation, the imagination, and your genius all coming together and working together. So let us pick up our thread of creation called our genius and start weaving a new and a better world for ourselves and for all of those that are yet to come after us. So I'm going to close with a meditation that's actually a prayer out of this book. And as you hear this prayer, even though it's written in first person of you speaking, feel the spin of it being a prayer out to the world and to our nation, but also to the world at this time. And it's called Desire. Change me, divine beloved, into one who can easily offer you even the deepest desires, knowing in every cell that you already have the perfect plan for me. You completely know my heart. Allow me to let go and trust you in every way by waiting and taking action as guided and always, always following your lead. Help me let what wants to come, what wants to go, and what wants to be. I am yours, you are mine, we are one, and all is well. Divine beloved, change me into one whose every desire truly belongs to you. Grant me detachment, patience, and calm. Let me fully trust your plan. If this idea is yours, let it bloom the perfect way. And if it is not, free me from its grip completely. I long for your desires alone. Divine beloved, change me into one who can offer my heart's desire to your loving hands. May I trust your complete guidance in every moment. Change me into one who can offer you even my deepest longings. Let me now be yours to do with as you will. Make me yours and yours alone. For this current idea is your own, then please lead the way, filling me with patience and faith. And if this idea is not your will, then free me from the attachment so all may unfold as you desire. Trust this is a perfect plan. I'm yours, you're mine, we are one, and all is well. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to have our offering at this time. All right, so take your gift to the home center, put it between your hands, give it a blessing of your heart, and we receive it with an open and a very grateful heart. And we see it in the flow of the universe, circulating around and doubling, tripling, quadrupling 100-fold, and coming back to you, blessing you with all of your wants and desires that serve your highest and your greatest good. And let that be your truth. Amen. And for those of you online, we have PayPal now on the front page of the website, and we have Vanco, whichever app works for you. And there's also an address on the website if you wanted to mail in a check. We're really grateful to receive your donations. We're also very grateful because this year, even though we haven't been able to hold physical church and physical classes, People have been generous, and we received some very generous donations, and all donations count. We're very grateful for that, whatever size, and we are doing well. Yeah, Jay's smiling over there with his thumbs up. So we want you to know that we are not just surviving on a thread and a string and a little gum and spitwad. We're thriving, and we're going to be here, going to continue to be here, and we will be here when this is all over. We're here when it began, we're here when it's going to be over, and we can come back together physically and better. We plan on coming out of this better than we went into it last March. So.
Our closing prayer. What a blessing from Reverend Madge this morning. Let us recall her message throughout the following week as a source of inspiration to assist us in living a spiritual life in love and light. May we see others as if through God's eyes, no judging, more loving. See them as you see yourself, perhaps not yet perfect, but as a work in progress that will be successfully completed in due time by your own hands. With all the love and light of this universe at your fingertips, there are no limits. No limits. In God and Christ, love and light, it is so. Amen.
Arms around the world, around each other. Arms around the world, sisters and brothers. Arms around the world, and we discover. Arms around